Hi everybody and welcome back to the Crafty Crew podcast. My name is Kinger. I'm joined as always by Walshy.
Hello.
By Mark.
Good evening.
And by Nelly.
Well,
it's weird to be first on the list there.
Yeah.
It's the way you're lined up on my Discord, yeah. So we've had a bit of a stuttering start to season 2, unfortunately, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, for once it wasn't our fault. Generally, these things are entirely down to us and we cock up. But this time it wasn't. One of the members of the Crafty Crew had to undergo a medical procedure, which was unfortunate. I don't know, Mark, if you wanna maybe, I don't know if you're okay to share that or.
No, yeah, it's fine. So basically, over the years, I've been accused of having a lack of sense, and recently doctors confirmed this diagnosis, and I had to have some sense knocked into me by the application of a large foot to the back of my head. So yeah,
lovely.
In the medical field, we like to call that a mild concussion.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for that note for work there. While she was really helpful.
No bother, buddy. I look after you.
Well, the funniest thing was, like, me and Nally were both like, okay, Mark, we'll take a few weeks as you get back to full health, and Walshy was all like, no, come on, let's do it anyway. He's fine. He's only faking, like, very.
Couple of Panadol, you're grand,
That is the general consensus.
Out of any of us, Walshy is the one who is, most qualified to determine whether you're good or not to come back from a concussion.
Right, so we are continuing our journey through the 32 counties of Ireland, and this week we are in Carlow and Kildare. So we have O'Hara's Irish Stout, it's a nitro, and then we have the fantastically named Fresh Prince of Kildare from Trouble Brewing. It's a DIPA, so I'm like, already, that's a high rating before we even start for me.
High ABV rating anyway.
Yeah.
Very high, yeah. So I suppose will we start with O'Hara's in Carlow?
Yeah, so I'll kick us off. Got a few facts about O'Hara's here. So they actually trade as the Carlow Brewing Company, but you wouldn't know that unless you actually looked into it, because everything's branded as O'Hara's. It was set up in 1996 by two brothers. So Seamus O'Hara and his brother Eamon. So this is like one of the, we talked before about, the early 2000s being an explosion of kind of craft breweries around Ireland. But not the mid-90s, this was the birth of it. So throughout the 16, 17, 1800s, Ireland had hundreds of breweries. We were known around the world for fantastic quality beers. But then it started to die off as large kind of corporation brewing came into effect. And in America and Canada and the UK in the 80s, the craft brewery kind of, what would you call it, new wave of craft breweries started to pop up. And in the 90s in Ireland, the late 90s, was the first kind of sprouts of the Irish kind of craft brewery scene. So O'Hara's was one of those very first craft breweries. They're really big now. They're very established. I'd almost call them a pseudo craft brewery, because some of their brands these days are still craft, but they're like a Sierra Nevada. They've been around so long and they're so consistent and in such a professional setup that they're almost the staples of the brand, and they're a legitimate brand. I think almost every off license in the country would have an O'Hara's representing in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So these guys are massive, and they've been involved in a lot, like setting up the craft brewery festival every year. It was set up in 2011. So it was like the Irish International Craft Beer Convention or whatever. So they were involved in setting that up for the first time in 2011. And it's been running for, since then, with the exception of COVID, obviously. So they really get involved in kind of the market and stuff. Interestingly enough, they own Craigie's. So they produce Craigie's rosé cider here in Ireland. So anyone who's listened to this podcast, especially our ciders episode last season, will remember how rosé cider went down. So O'Hara's very well established, well thought of craft brewery. One big, massive black mark against their name in this podcast. So they have that to live up to.
Mean, if Kinger's saying that DIPA of his is starting off with some plus points already because, he's a big DIPA's fan, O'Hara's are going to have to do well to overcome the fact that Craigie's is part of their lineup. Jesus.
No. We have to look at it impartially. Like,
No, I look down on a shop that stocks it now. Never mind the people who make it. Okay.
Yeah. Mark, look at it this way. I even left that shop when I found out they had it.
Yeah, that's why you left.
Gone.
That's why you left.
Handed in my notice. No, I can't be surrounded by this kind of nonsense. You know.
Anyway, so this is another. I like to get into the history of shit in this, but the Carlow Brewing Company, so O'Hara's, is based in Minnebiug in Carlow. So it's known in English as Bagnallstown. The official name is Minnebiug, and they changed it in like the 1920s after Ireland gained independence from England. But in 1975, they had a vote to try and change it back to Bagnallstown, because that's what everyone calls it. Even today, apparently, everyone calls it Bagnallstown. And 70% of people voted to change the name back, but not enough people showed up, so they couldn't pass it. So they're still Minnebiug. And just a nice bit of Irish history here. If you go on Wikipedia and you search a place, they normally give you like a notable people, like this famous person is from there. But apparently, now this is just based on Wikipedia, so I know people might get controversial with this. But apparently, Richie Kavanagh, the very famous Irish entertainer, is from Bagnallstown. So stay with her, Johnny.
Nice.
I am so looking forward to some Walshies.
I cannot wait.
Are we calling them facts or are we calling
Walshies
them
wisdoms?
I'll try this.
Walshies wisdoms.
Walshies wisdoms. I love that. Love that.
I have
Love
too much
that.
wisdom, so I decided to change it up a little bit. And it's a little tiny game I'm going to play with you.
Oh,
Okay.
I've only after hearing of this thing called Twin Towns or Sister Towns. Hadn't a clue it was a thing while I was researching earlier on. So there's like loads of towns and stuff. So I said, I'll take the county. I'll take 3 names. One of them will be the sister town, and I'll just let you guess.
Okay.
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 A couple of seconds. So Carlow, I'm going to throw out a couple of towns and countries.
Hang
You
on.
tell me.
You've only just heard of this.
Sister towns, yeah, hadn't a clue.
Where are you from? You live in
Chateaubriand.
Athlone, right?
Chateau
You live in-
Brienne or something, I think.
You live in the 21st century, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go on. Okay, go on. Back to the game.
Okay. Yeah, right. So, Carlo, I'm going to start off. You have Buchan, Italy, Nador, Malta, or Dole, France.
Oh, I don't know how this works.
Surely.
How do we
Where's
answer?
this twinned with? Sorry.
Do we just
Yeah, how do
scream?
we-
Just right. Okay, Mark, you go first.
Bu-
Which one? And you all pick or which one do you want?
Buchan, Italy.
Okay, Nally,
Dole, France.
Kinger,
I'll go the other one. So I can't remember what it's called.
Nador, Malta. It's
Nador
Dole,
and Malta.
France.
Okay. Boo.
1 point for
I
Nally.
love games again.
Yay.
Games are good.
A nice, simple, straightforward thing for Walshy to do, and not fuck up.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
I'm sure those
yes.
pronunciations are quite suspect if they're in their, home.
Yeah,
They're
that-
suspect enough. Yeah.
That Malta
Yeah.
and Italy one were probably a little skeptical, but if this kind of sound confident or they sound made up, so
Yeah,
we established this early. So
Fair.
we're only about a quarter of the way through this podcast, Walshy, so don't get too high on your horse yet, okay?
Okay, Nally, hit us up with some Trouble Brewing / Kildare facts.
Oh, well, I don't really know much about Kildare. There's not a whole lot there as far as I know, is there? But they have
Trouble
trouble.
brewing there.
They have trouble brewing, which is definitely a positive. And so Trouble Brewing they're one of the first craft breweries in Ireland to start out. They did start out, it was around 2010, 2011, but there was only around 10 craft breweries in the whole of the country then. So they are one of the first originators of it. A thing that really got them popular or kind of brought them to the forefront was they make a lot of seasonal beers, and they made a pumpkin beer for Halloween time. So the pumpkin beer, it was made with pumpkins grown by one of the founders. His mom grew a heap of pumpkins, and they used them in the beer. They make all their beers. It's with they have their own well on site, and they use Irish malt and stuff to make. It's the base of all their beers. But they've been going around now 10 years. It was set up by three friends. One of them was big into homebrew, and the second guy kind of got into it when they all went to a beer festival, and then the third guy slowly followed suit. I don't think they're all still there. I think only one of them might still be there now. The others have kind of moved on to different things. But so every year they have all the seasonal beers that they bring out. They have about 5 in their core range, and then they bring out seasonal ones as the year goes on. A thing I did notice that, Mark, you'll see when we get to the can, particularly because I know you're the one for the artwork on the cans, kind of. So you might notice it when we get to it that about 2 years ago, Trouble Brewing, they changed up all the artwork on their cans, all their style. So one of their mainline beers, one of their core range is called Ambush Pale Ale, and it used to be kind of a blue can, and it used to just have this kind of weird character, not a full character, just a face on the front of it that looked a bit strange. But they've gone for the kind of a new style with it. We'll talk about it more when we get there, but I think it's pretty cool. It's just a heap of geometric shapes that I think it's cool. Yeah. Like, I like them. This one we're going to try today as well, the Fresh Prince of Kildare. That's one of their seasonal ones. So if you notice on the front of it, it'll have 2021. So they have it out every year, kind of. There's a couple of breweries that do that. Wicklow Wolf do it with their pointy shoes, their barrel aged stout that they do every year and stuff like that. Yeah. Apart from that, they're a mainstay kind of on the Irish market. They've gotten a lot more. They're available in a lot of places, so they are. No more than O'Hara's. They'd be pretty popular now at this point. You can't, 90% of off license that have any craft beer section will have some kind of Trouble Brewing in there. They have a good range as well. They have pale ale, stouts. They have a dark porter that's really good. I think it's Dark Arts dark porter, and it's really good. So there's, definitely worth a try if anyone's looking to get into porters. It's a solid one to start out with.
I have 2 experiences with these. So like their Viet Now is one of their mainstay beers, which is a very solid beer, and people should try it if you get the chance. The other was, I once bought a can of this, and I bought like a lot of cans together, and I put them in like one of those plastic storage containers. And when I went to open the container like the next week, one can had like very slowly burst and seeped and kind of soaked all the other cans in it, and I had to like clean them all off. And it was Trouble Brewing's Lucky Pale Ale. So the irony's not lost on me that was the can that burst. But it was such an annoying experience that I have a little hang up on them as well. So I've got little hang ups on both breweries, very unreasonable, illogical hang ups.
At least you're unbiased then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I'm aware of my bias, so does that make it better? I don't know.
Yeah. A little bit, yeah. The bias is negative on both sides. At least it's not one positive bias and one negative bias.
Yeah, and like I said with the mountain people of Wicklow, being a Dubliner, the plains people of Kildare, all there is a buffer to the pale. That's all the reason that county exists. So don't expect much.
I just have a quick one, lads. On an aside, I know Walshy, we'll get your words of wisdom in a minute, but I just have a quick one on an aside. I have to give a quick shout out to one of the lads to Tempo. Because the way we talk about what beers were kind of our favourites, and I said last year the Wicklow Wolf Apex S'mores was my favourite beer. So one of the lads, he was going through his collection of beverages, and he found that he had 2 cans of Apex S'mores. So guess who has another can of Apex S'mores, baby? This guy.
No
yeah.
way.
The only problem is, last time I drank my last can of Apex S'mores, I didn't know it was limited edition. I thought I could get more. This time, I really need to pick when to frick to drink it, because I might never get it again. Which is, a bit of...
Is it still in date?
You've got
irrelevant.
Wedding,
irrelevant,
like
Kinger.
Chris.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Natalie, I feel you've got like your wedding, like a christening of a child, like, I don't know, your second wedding, something. There has to be a major life milestone that you drink that on. But at the same time, it can't be 2 years from now, because it'll probably spoil in the can. So you need to make a major life milestone happen in the next few months.
Tuesday. I feel like Tuesday is a major life milestone.
I was going to say Tuesday. But Mark was talking, so I didn't get a chance. Tuesday's solid.
Right, Walshy, what are you quizzing us with this time?
Well, same again. For now, I'll probably change it up. I'll do a little bit. I think getting to laugh at my made-up facts might have been a bit more entertaining. But we'll go for Corp Nudes France Cooper City, USA, and Pledfield, Germany. They were probably all pronounced wrong, except for Cooper City.
Well, I thought you said Pooper City, so I'm going to go with
Yeah,
that.
same.
Yeah.
I said Cooper.
The one he said in
I
France,
thought you said
he
pooper.
said poo for that as well. So I'll go for the French poo if you guys are going for the American poo.
I don't know where you're getting poo from.
No, I'm going for the French one because I thought he said corp nudes, which I thought was very
Yeah, that's
strange.
what it is. Corpse nudes.
Okay, so it's corpse nudes. Right, fantastic. Let's go with corpse nudes.
Yeah, I'll actually go corpse nudes as well.
And you're going with Cooper Kinger, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's corp nudes.
Yeah.
It's actually.
I mean, I'm just going to give you a quick one on that. I'm just going to a quick one on that. So your sister towns and your sister cities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure Ireland was just twinned with France, so every Irish town is just twinned with somewhere in France.
Ah.
And I guess that because the Athlone one. I guess that because the Athlone is twinned with a city in
French
France
town.
as well. So
Yeah.
I was like, if he says a French name, I'm just going to go with it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of them here. Like I have a full list of all of the towns and stuff.
That's
but there's a
all-
lot of them there.
Jesus.
France and America seem to be the main ones, but there's like a couple of Italy's, Poland's.
So moving on to the Nitro Stout. I don't want to listen to this. Let's get on to the alcohol. That's what people want to hear about.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, while we're cracking this open, like I should say, I had 2 matches today, and I smell. You know when you find your gear bag in the bottom of the garage after about 6 months of sitting in like
no.
really.
Ah, yes, that green zebra by Founders
have-
smell.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to shower. So while we're like talking about the smell of this, I might get like interfering notes from myself. You know.
Kinger went
Crack
full
open.
on unclean gym workout. What's it? Like an unclean protein shake.
Yeah.
A shaker from
absolutely.
it.
So what I like about their can for this Nitro Stout is that at the bottom it has instructions, for all of us who aren't sure how to pour out stouts. It's chill, pull, pour, enjoy. Sorry, I read it out wrong. Yeah.
good man.
Oh, God
Chill.
damn it, Mark.
Reading it off the
One
can.
job.
Shut up and let me finish.
Chill. That concussion
Chill.
is a fucker.
Chill, pull, pour, pause, enjoy. There we go. So they actually tell you how to drink it.
You got there.
Yeah.
So okay, first things first. The can is like real simple, black can with gold and white writing, and then like a white band at the bottom just to say craft brewed in Ireland, and all your kind of essential information. It's nothing like
O'Hara's tend not to do much. O'Hara's just have their look.
Yeah.
Like 51st State, I think, is
Yeah.
the one that's probably the most out there, and that's because there's more than 2 colours on it. Like it's
okay.
I will say, lads. So if you pick up your other cans, so these are for this can is a bit deceiving because it doesn't fit in all of my other freaking places. I store cans like a normal can, that a normal
bit
craft
bigger,
beer can
yeah.
that are 440 mils. This looks like it should be 500 mils, but it's only 440. It's just skinnier and taller, which is a pain in the arse for where I put them in the fridge.
Yeah.
I have to put this in the door of the fridge, whereas everything else fits in neatly in its shelf.
Do you reckon that's a bit of a marketing gimmick? As in, we're making it the same size and shape as a Guinness can, but there's less in it, so we make more money off of it.
I'd say so.
I wonder is it
I
a thing
reckon,
because as I was opening the can, you could nearly hear not gas, but gas kind of seeping through. Like there was air trapped in it or something.
The nitro.
That's the nitro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nitro is short
That's
for
probably
nitrogen.
so.
Dr. Paul Welsh's tip of the week.
We didn't learn that in school.
There's a lot we didn't learn in school.
No, or there was. I just not a lot. I don't remember.
It smells like a stout. I don't know. Like, is there
That's
another
pretty
type
much
of
it.
smell you can put on that? Like, it's pretty standard.
I think it's a little sweeter than say a Guinness. It's kind of a little bit more creamy smell than a Guinness. A little bit sweeter
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Got a kind of milkiness to the smell. Do you get that, Nally?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So,
That
But yeah.
saying something smells milky could be quite off-putting, depending on your kind of
Yeah,
your taste, like But
if it
I get
wasn't a
what you
stout.
mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
These milky stouts kind of have that sweet kind of flavour, but it's not like just a pure
Yeah.
sweetness like you get with some Citra IPAs or anything where you're smelling the hops and stuff.
Yeah.
this is this kind of, you're smelling it sweet, but you know that it's going to be kind of more viscous and heavy. Like there's no fizziness there, but it does look, standard black, standard head on it. So
black with an off-white head.
Oh, that is tasty.
Yeah,
that is very tasty, isn't it?
I would say it's a little watery on mouthfeel. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but it's not as, say, creamy as I expected based on the smell and kind of the pour. Especially the head. It's a nice, thick, bouncy head on it for a stout, which is good. But it just kind of slides out of your mouth real quick. It doesn't leave much behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's quite dry, but, it's an Irish stout, so they are dry stouts. But I get what you mean. It is that little bit more watery. You kind of get, I think, for some reason, in this case, it kind of carries the flavour that bit more. Like, it's kind of chocolatey or kind of something roasted there, maybe coffee or something, but it's not super strong, but it is there a little bit. And it's not gone straight away because it's that bit water and it sticks around a little bit longer, maybe.
Is it? Are you doing it a disservice by instantly comparing it to a Guinness, like from the word go, like because that's kind of going to be the baseline, right?
Yeah, and I know it's a super high baseline to set. I mean, most people who drink Guinness drink it because it's like in their lives probably the nicest drink there is. Like, and just like to be careful, we do draw comparisons with established beers, but that's as much to kind of express how we're feeling about something. So to say it's more watery than Guinness, it's not straight out negative. We're just trying to describe what we think it is.
Yeah.
It's also a handy way for anyone who's trying to get new into craft beer. When we're describing it something similar to kind of Guinness, it gives them a baseline of where we're working off. Like instead of people who are seasoned with craft beer and we're saying, well, it's kind of like a milder version of, I don't know, Pointy Shoes or something, which is a Wicklow Wolf bourbon aged stout, like so.
Kinger, we're professionals. Stop questioning us.
Well, no, my only thing that I was going to say was that like when I'm having a Guinness, it feels like I'm almost having a meal. Like there's a bit of work to it. Whereas this, like I was agreeing with what you're saying, it washes away very quick. But I find that this does leave quite a long aftertaste, like after it's gone, which is good because it tastes nice. Like if that was a bad tasting beer, it would obviously have negative effects.
Yeah, I think you're right though about the Guinness part of it, not comparing it too much because it is different. It's it's the same style, but that kind of wateriness, leaving the taste there that bit longer. I think it's pretty decent. Like you were saying with a Guinness being almost a meal, I feel like you could nearly go out and have more of these and not feel as full.
To throw back to something you said, Nally, if this said coffee milk stout on the can, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely a coffee milk stout. It's literally, there's a lovely roasted coffee kind of taste off it. It's subtle, it's not overpowering, but I've had coffee stouts that just taste like coffee beans and they're like super overpowering. But this is actually kind of what you'd want out of one.
Walshy, you've been deliberating quietly in your head there. What are your thoughts?
I will go off something, and I might get a bit of stick for this. So if you remember back in season 1, we talked about that I had my first Guinness years ago, and I had a couple of pints a few months ago, right? And I had stated that I found it quite bland and kind of boring.
Don't you?
Right? Sorry, Kinger. Sorry.
I know where this is going.
I'm probably going to apologise to a lot more people for this, but I found it a little boring, and that's maybe because drinking stouts over the Christmas, a lot more of them outlandish ones with a lot of flavours and stuff like that. I find that quite similar. I think it's very watery, like Mark said as well. Like it's not bad, it's tasty, but there's just I find it a little boring at the same time. I don't think there's really much to it really to remember, and that's how I felt about Guinness as well. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, those of us at the Crafty crew with any ounce of sense would like to distance ourselves from Walshy's comments on Guinness. We apologise for any offence caused in this previous segment and hope you will continue listening to us.
He's apologising for me where he insulted the boys that make Guinness.
That's different. That's very different.
Mark, you've also had a habit lately of like having a go at every county we've drank from.
Exactly. Just because, and he apologises for an opinion I make.
It's just because the counties we've drank from are the bordering counties of Dublin, and there's rivalry.
So as we get further north or west,
I'll
we're
get
going to
more
kind of ease up on
pleasant
the
with the exception of Mayo because I lived there. So when we do Mayo, when we heads up to Mayo, people, when we do Mayo, all right, what I'm going to get away with on this podcast is possibly going to get us cancelled and kicked off several streaming platforms.
I reckon it's probably just because you're from Dublin. Let's not sugarcoat it. It doesn't matter where anyone else is from. It's just because you're from Dublin, Mark.
It's just a trait.
We're just better people.
You're not even the real capital according to Cork, like, so wish.
If Mark is going to go off on Mayo and maybe potentially probably get us cancelled, can we leave Mayo till nearly the end so we can kind of get at least a nice few episodes done before then, before we get cancelled? You don't want to do Mayo next week and then we're gone again, do you know?
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm quite enjoying this. I'm really surprised by, like a craft beer sometimes will lose its head fairly quickly as you go down the glass. This actually, the head seems to stick around a lot as you go down the glass with this, which I think is very impressive for. I know you're saying pseudo craft beer, but I think it's kind of cool.
It's appealing, isn't it? Because you like, when you drink a stout, you like seeing that nice creamy head in it. And with a lot of craft stouts, it does dissipate after about halfway and you're just drinking black liquid. But the fact that it sticks with it is very appealing to drink the end of the pint because it's still there.
Yeah. I'm assuming a lot of that comes from the fact that it's got the nitro in it, probably holding the bubbles. The bubbles are smaller with the nitro, it gives it that kind of creamier flavour. So maybe that has something to do with the head sticking around for so much longer. Same with a Guinness, when you get to the end of a Guinness, the head is still there because it's served on nitro.
As I've thrown up in a few of the previous episodes, we're trying to, for every drinking situation, we're trying to have a craft solution as opposed to the mainstream solution that kind of currently exists. But there's people, or maybe ourselves, where it's the middle of the summer, it's warm, you maybe want to have a stout, but Guinness can be heavy, as you say, Kinger, or maybe you've had a big meal and it's not the depths of winter, so you're not going to go for a Guinness. But something lighter that still tastes nice, that is a stout like this, you could call maybe like a summer stout or a summer style stout. And just the lack of body to it makes it kind of easier to drink and digest.
Yeah, that's fair. I would see this more for me as maybe sitting in on a Friday night, watching TV. Kind of, it's not going to be if I was to have 3 or 4 cans of Guinness, I'd be asleep in 2 hours. Do you know? Whereas I feel like I wouldn't be very sleepy with this. It's not as heavy, so that's where I'd put it. But
yeah. I feel like after a night of Guinness, you're singing, rebel songs. After a night of this, maybe you're singing something a bit more modern, like Blur or Oasis or something.
I love how you've gone from modern still being 30 years ago
to Blur.
Yeah.
I said something more modern, and I wanted to get the episode's Father Ted reference out of the way nice and early.
Okay, so look, let's move on. Let's move on and get the rating for O'Hara's Irish Stout Nitro. The Crafty Crew rating system, as always.
Let me interrupt you there and try and redeem myself after my failure to read 5 words off a can. I'm going to try and remember 5 words from my brain.
Okay.
So we start off, bottom of the barrel, Craigie's Rosé Cider. You know who you are. Unbearable. Okay, then we move up to level 2,
Mark.
Booze. To you, Mark.
Booze me. Then we hit level 3, that mid-level of just beer, where you're like, yeah, that's fine. Then we hit Brutiful, level 4, for those exceptional brews that don't quite make it all the way to unbeerleavable, where we have, I think, 3.5 members at this stage. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah. We have Hope's Grunt, Vice Beer. We have Foam and Fury, DIPA, from Galway Bay. And
Red Noir.
Red Noir by Yellow Belly. We also have Dolman Irish Stout, don't we? However, that's
Dolman,
our 0.5.
That's the half one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the 0.5.
Yeah.
Check out the Paddy's Day special to see how that got a 0.5. Oh, plugs.
Yeah, I don't mind kicking this off. I definitely see the place for this. It's a good stout. It is a little bit watery, and the milk kind of coffee taste. It's nice, but it does get stronger as you kind of drink it. and it gets kind of a little bit, not too strong, but it's just bordering. Overall, for me, this is a just beer. It's grand. I like drinking it, and I would probably have it again, but I wouldn't have it en masse, and I wouldn't seek it out. So for me, just beer.
I wouldn't be drinking at mass, Mark.
Okay.
No.
Probably wouldn't be fat. They wouldn't want that.
En masse is a French term, doctor. That means a lot of.
No, I know what you meant. Yes, I know what you meant.
It's probably twinned with a town in Ireland.
Yeah.
Knock.
Longford.
Surely it'd be Knockwalshy because of the mass, you know.
Sure.
Oh, the tangents. Who's next, Wazzy?
Okay. It is nice, but like I said earlier on, I find it a little bland, and I find it quite watery as well. But it's still nice, so I'm kind of solid just beer as well.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's it does exactly what it says in the tin.
Mr.
So
fucking optimism is back.
Yeah, look, you have to be optimistic these days, Mark. I think it's lovely. It's not quite. I feel bad because I'm instantly comparing it to Guinness, and I know we keep talking about it, but like it's never going to it's never going to knock it off its perch, so to speak. So like, it's beautiful for me.
I think you always will compare it that way, though. Like, especially when it's stout, instinct is to compare it to Guinness, regardless of what way you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas there's so many different beers or lagers that you can compare it to, like 6 and 7 different types. A stout, you've got your one main staple one, which is just Guinness, so it'll always be compared to, even if you want to or not. It's just the way it is,
I'm going to be in the same line as the two lads, Kinger. For me, it's a just beer. It's definitely leaning towards Brutiful. Like, it's on that upper end of just beer, but it is just beer for me. I like it. I think the wateriness, which is a weird thing to say, but I think it kind of helps this beer. It makes it less filling than, some other stouts. You could have a few of these without feeling like you've had a roast dinner, which is, positive. Like,
yeah.
But I think the flavor's there. It's nice. I'll definitely have them again. I really want a pint of it. I'll put it that way. I think that on tap would be class.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really good.
Yeah.
I think if I had a pint of that, I'm already reckoning I would move it to Brutiful. But from the can, it's just beer for me.
This might be a stupid question. Does the nitro change the taste? No.
Kinda, yeah. So it changes the carbonation in it. It's not so much the taste, but it's the bubbles that are inside of it. So with the CO2, you get bigger bubbles, and that's why with the nitro you get the smaller bubbles, and it gives it that kind of creamier mouthfeel more than anything.
Okay.
I would maybe say it doesn't change the taste, but it changes the impact of it. So the taste is there, and one of the ways you absorb it is based on the carbonation level. So something that's very sharp or has a very distinct taste with high carbonation will kind of blast onto your tongue, whereas something that has low carbonation, maybe a subtle taste, will kind of like settle on you, and then everything else kind of lands in between. And with the lower carbonation, like lower bubbles, say, due to the nitro, it might change how you actually kind of respond to it,
I was just trying to delay time until I had to do my Carlow accent. Question to throw in. This is as a delay tactic. That was all.
Because as we all remember, Kinger now has to do the little outro for O'Hara's Nitro Irish Stout in his best attempt at a Carlow accent. So give us your best Richie Kavanagh there, Kinger. Take it away.
So I think that gives us a just beer for O'Hara's Irish Stout on the Crafty Crew podcast.
Yes,
Quality.
Best one yet, Kinger. Oh my god!
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Certainly the most entertaining for us, man.
Oh my god! It's where you did voice
talk like that. Can you just talk like that from now on? Actually.
For the rest of the podcast, I could try. Yeah, I could try.
So weird. That does not make sense for your face. Like, what is going on?
I was just like, who's after joining? We get a guest or something.
Okay, so let's continue our journey, and we're heading into Kildare for Trouble Brewing's Fresh Prince of Kildare. Like, I'm a sucker for a good name. That's exquisite as far as I'm
it's up there.
concerned.
It's up there.
It's quality. Okay, so crack them open.
Well, that was a good one. Oh yeah, this is definitely a DIPA. Jesus, you can smell it.
You can
She's
smell
stanky.
yourself.
That's
It's like when you smell it, you have a
That's-
flash forward to 3 a.m. and you're eating sitting outside a chipper eating a kebab with your bare hands, garlic sauce covering you.
With your bare hands or your beer
that
hands?
smells
Both, at that stage of the night.
that smells very similar to something I'm a very, very big fan
Yeah,
of.
I was thinking that. All right.
Very similar.
Oh, it smells so heavy.
Yeah. I know that sounds like a silly thing to say, but you do kind of get a sense of how heavy it's going to be from the smell. But it's got a gorgeous
Yeah.
sweetness to it.
That's going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, it's got a lovely orange colour. It's a hazy beer, like, doubles. You ain't seeing through this thing. But the colour is almost that of
Yeah, it's
orange juice, kind of.
Yeah.
Also have one or two of these, you're not going to be seeing anything, let alone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bit of a banger. It's 9.1%. Like, it's fairly up there.
Natalie, you mentioned earlier on about Trouble Brewing changing their can style. So I'd like to talk about this and go off on another little tangent, if that's all right, for just a minute. But Trouble Brewing's can style these days is this kind of, I would like to describe it as minimalistic, kind of modern arty kind of look. Is that fair to say from looking at this?
yeah, it's
No one say it
geometric,
couple of others.
like.
Yeah, shapes, arcs, nothing too fancy, the same kind of font on the writing. I actually preferred their old ambush logo. Now,
Yeah.
it's hard to say I would have preferred their old style logo for this because it didn't exist or whatever. But their old ambush logo was on several taps around Dublin, okay, in bars. And also, I have a glass of it. And it was basically a nose, 2 eyes, and 2 eyebrows, looking like this. Like an angry kind of face.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
And these pint glasses knocked around and
Yes.
nobody knew, like, what pint glass is that from? That was Ambush from Trouble. It was a super good design. I've been in pubs with people who've, like, gone up to barmen and been like, what beer is this glass from? Because they got Heineken in it. And then they'd be like, oh, I'll try that beer. Give me the actual beer from the glass and stuff. So I actually prefer their old logo. But this is still nice. It's got its place. It's recognisable as that brewery.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm not going to lie. You've been talking for too long. I've had a taste.
Talk about the mouthfeel, Kinger. Talk about the mouthfeel. We have an order to things. How does the mouthfeel feel?
Why bother wasting time? Just like get on with it. No, I'm joking. Yeah. It's a bit more carbonated than I thought it was going to be. Like normally when you see these, they're a bit juicy. This doesn't taste as juicy as it smells for some reason. But it's crisper than I thought as well. Like it's quite sharp for a DIPA.
It's sharp for a DIPA. So in terms of overall carbonation, it's not that carbonated. It's kind of like average. But for DIPAs, they tend to be, as you say, kind of juicier. It's very strong. The impression you get that ABV in that mouthful, you can feel it. It's like gone beyond juicy into like juicy plus vodka or something. There's a definite heat of alcohol off of this when you take a drink.
Yeah, I've said it before, that feeling of like the like a rum or a whiskey style kind of feeling in your chest. It's that kind of, you do definitely get that feeling.
Starting to get dizzy already.
Yeah, so moving into the flavor, it's kind of I'll leave it for Kinger for a minute to have another go before he absolutely explodes there. But it's kind of piney, kind of resinousy, resiny kind of piney. It is crisp. It's no more than yourself, Kinger. It's definitely crisper than I thought it was going to be. But that kind of piney resinous, it comes true anyway for me. Like that kind of more East Coast kind of style or West Coast kind of style, IPA kind of.
There's a lovely sweetness to the smell, but the taste has an awful lot of bitterness to it, I think.
Yeah.
That if you're a person who likes your sweet beers, your citras or your sours, the bitterness of this is more aimed at kind of, let's say, I don't know, maybe malt, people who like their malt flavoured stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I think 100%, Mark. You're right with the bitterness. So the bitterness is definitely it's the high hop content that's giving it the bitterness. All the bitterness in beer comes from the hops, and I think with this, if you I don't know how willing you are to go for it, but if you take a small sip of it, it's all alcohol. It's just really alcohol-y at the front, and it's not a whole lot of flavor. It's just super alcohol. You get that heat. It's too much nearly. But if you take a decent mouthful of it, that bitterness really cuts through and really helps it. So it does. I mean, if it all tasted like when you take that small sip, that you wouldn't drink that. It wouldn't be worth it. It's not great. But that bitterness
It'd be like
cuts
drinking
through.
a short.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was the double IPA we had last season?
Firestone Walker.
Firestone Walker.
Double Jack.
It's
Double Jack. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's
This is very similar in taste for me to that, but it, as I was saying earlier, this smells a lot like Metal Beer Solid. So I think it's a strange mix that it smells like one but tastes more like the other.
Yeah, I don't think it's as full on as the Double Jack. I think that was down around 8%.
Not quite,
and
no.
I think
not quite.
it had a lot going for it because, you know, it had the bitterness that cut through the alcohol content. But I don't know if there's too much content here to cut through, because it's, even when the bitterness hits you, you're still always getting that alcohol-y taste the whole way through the process.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with this one though is this one is definitely sweeter than the Firestone Walker. Like that was
For sure,
that was way, like
for
I know
sure.
we're talking about this one being a bit piney and a bit resinous, but that one was like chewing on pine needles while someone poured vodka down your throat.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
one is not like that.
It's like a Wednesday.
Yeah, because as we all know, Apex S'mores is Tuesday. So.
Walshy, thoughts?
for me. Like King at the start, he said double, and he was like excited off the bat. I'm not gone on the double, so I was very hesitant about this altogether. So that heavy taste of just pure alcohol just doesn't suit me or something. I don't know. But initial first taste, I was like, oh, do you know what? You can't taste the alcohol that much, and then gave it a minute, and oh, there it is, and it's just. No, I struggle with them, but it's just a personal preference. It's just not for me. But that's not to say that it's bad either. Like
Yeah.
I like. Do you know? I mean, I'd never buy it again, kind of thing.
After shitting on Guinness, right, which we all took offence to,
I
you're
didn't
now
shit on
shitting on
Guinness.
DIPAs, which are like Kinger's established favourite style. So at this stage,
You shit on sours the whole time.
I didn't.
You have shit on sours, which is mine, and you're like, oh yeah, no,
Well,
because
see,
I'm not following
I
your
allowed
trend.
myself to be very objectively converted to being a fan of sours, which I've mentioned on numerous occasions on this podcast. Since
have,
episode
but you-
2. Okay, episode 2, Walshy. So I shit on them for maximum one episode, okay?
You still shat on them.
And to be
Yeah.
fair, I think his only gripe with sours is Green Zebra.
Pretty
I
much.
think that's
which
his
is
only...
which is a fair gripe because it's terrible.
I actually
I
bought
think
4
it's lovely.
cans of Hopfully Leg Swap, and I gave
Yes.
3 of them to 3 different people to try and convert them to sours. And it worked for one person. So there's one more sour drinker in the world, Walshy, because of me.
Because of me, technically.
Yeah, if I'm your sour child, he's your sour grandchild.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, so Kinger, just one quick thing before we go on to rating this. Like, I'm about halfway through the pint now, a little bit more. The drink. It's a 440ml can. But the bitterness, I think, that is there, and I think I've said before, that is there to cut through that alcohol content, isn't getting far enough. And the alcohol that you're tasting, and it sounds silly, but if anyone has a sip of this, you'll know exactly what we mean. It's like tasting pure alcohol. It builds and builds, and the aftertaste gets worse and worse. It's one of those drinks that I don't mind at the start, or I like at the start, and then don't want, by the time I'm finished it, I don't want to have it again. That to me is where this is landing. There's drinks that are the same the whole way through. There's drinks that start not so good and get brilliant, and then there's this. And this is just one more reminder to all you established breweries out there and aspiring craft breweries. You need to make your sensory testers drink the whole pint, the whole way through. None of this sipping. None of this
taste
sipping a
won't do it,
standard
like,
and
yeah.
sipping the pint and being like, oh, it's the same. No. The whole way
Yeah.
through, please. And thank you.
It's interesting. For me, it started off very positively. The more I drink it, I do find that this will sound super strange, but if I have, let's just say, I had 1 pint of whatever, and I had a breathalyzer test, I feel like I wouldn't be like off the scale.
They wouldn't even breathalyze you with this. They'd smell it and they'd be like, "Nah, man, you're going to the jail.
That's
you're
what I'm
going
saying.
to the fucking cell right now."
That's what I'm saying. Halfway through this, I'm starting to feel like it would be just so recognizable that I've been drinking like instantly. It just seems like it's very alcohol-y. Like maybe the more I drink it or for whatever reason, but it's as a DIPA, I feel like it's a bit too harsh, which I'm disappointed by because it started off really well.
Boozy is kind of a good way to describe it. It's like it's very boozy. Like,
Ooh.
Okay. So I know you're going to be expecting like super positive rating for me on this. So I'm going to say that started off very positive about this. The more I drink it, the harder I'm finding it to drink. Which for me as a big DIPA fan, I think is quite surprising. This for me is just beer.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, I wanted it to be beautiful, but I'm actually struggling a bit to drink it, and I think that's down to the pure harshness of the alcohol taste, which, just beer.
So I called out in episode 1, Kinger, how you, at the start of season 1, were super positive and we leveled you out, and then we got a break and then you were super positive again. I still think you're in that positive place, because I'm going to go next and I'm going to give this thing an unbearable.
What? No.
Yeah. I have gotten about 2/3 of the way through this now, and every mouthful feels like almost like it's like straight vodka with a kind of wheaty taste to it. That alcohol boozy taste just builds and builds. It's not pleasant. There's no flavour. There's no discernible, like, oh, it's this or it's that. It's just overcoming anything that was there. Any pininess, any bitterness. Now you're just having like bitter alcohol. That's all I'm tasting off it. Deeply unpleasant. I probably won't even finish this, to be honest with you.
That's surprising.
Unbearable for me. Unbearable.
So I'm at a slight impasse with this. I think kind of because I don't like DIPAs, but then I could understand why people that do like DIPAs might like it because it's so heavy. I don't know if I'd go as far as unbearable. I think that'd be a little unfair on it, but I'd be definitely a booze, and that's just pure personal preference. Just DIPAs I just don't enjoy.
This is super negative. I'm very surprised.
Yeah. Like I don't think that this is that heavy in the world of DIPAs. You know, there's enough carbonation there, high for a DIPA, to keep it kind of light and crisp. It's just there's nothing. Like if this had a citrusy flavour or a very strong piney flavour, there's something there piney, but it's not that strong. But it doesn't have an identity. It literally feels like these guys brewed just any sort of beer they could get their hands on with whatever was left, bumped it up to a DIPA, and sold it with a class name to get people to buy it.
I think an awful lot of DIPAs will have some kind of a flavour profile to kind of mask that heaviness of the alcohol, and I think it's just missing some kind of just a little kick of something to kind of mask it, you know.
That could improve it greatly, but it's not there.
Yeah.
I am very torn on this one. like this is, you know, the way we all of us at some stage have had a beer that's been like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm kind of stuck. Generally, I don't get that. Generally, I'm like, it's a just beer, or it's class, or it's shite, and I don't really get the I'm stuck on a beer. This one I am. This one is you know, like, their DIPAs aren't my favourite style. They're grand. I mean, but they're not my favourite. And I don't hate this, I think. I don't know. This one's proper got me. Like, I like it a bit. Maybe I hate it. I don't know. It's conflicted.
I don't think I don't think hate's the right word for any beer on this podcast, because hate implies you actively expend energy to dislike.
That
it.
was
Just
Craigie's
okay?
rosé cider. I can full confidence. There's this.
You change your job.
That's an out and out loathing of an alcoholic beverage. But no, this one I'm actually pretty torn on this. I think I like it. I think the pininess to it is not overwhelming. There's a bit of a sweetness there. The alcohol is the main thing you get. I'm not gonna, you can't. There's no way you can deny that. However, you can, but you're going to take a long time to get around that one. But I think the big thing is, like, if you take small mouthfuls, like I was saying, if you take small mouthfuls or small sips, that alcohol is just going to wipe everything off your mouth. You're not going to taste it. You're just going to taste the alcohol. You're not going to get those piney flavors that are there, that kind of carbonation that they have that cuts through. If you take a big mouthful, and you just don't take your next mouthful for a while, just take one big mouthful and leave it there for a while, you get that kind of piney flavor, that piney taste, with the booze still coming through. Yeah.
Like, can I just, to counter that, like, most people, when you're drinking a beer naturally, okay, you're going to drink a mouthful, and then another mouthful, and then another mouthful. And drinking this, your natural process is going to be to kind of reduce your mouthful each time because of that alcohol content. You're trying to get less of a kick. And then you're down to sips, and then you're going to be like, oh, well, now I'm sipping it. And it's, as you say, washing away any piney flavour or sweetness that's there. So, like, in a natural scenario, drinking this drink, you're going to be like, you're not going to want to finish this. Or if you do, you're going to be glad it's gone.
And the thing is, Mark, you're right. That's what has me torn. That's the main thing. I'm thinking, like, if I drink it the way I was drinking it here with, like, the bigger mouthfuls, it's a nice beer. It's solid. But if you drink it, like you're saying, in a natural state where you're just going to be less and less each time, it's just more and more boozy with each sip because you're not drinking as much to cut through it. So, look, I'll give it a booze, but I'm not... Yeah, fuck it. I'll give it a booze. But it's in between.
Jesus.
Like, it's really in between. Like, it's one of those... Yeah, no, I can't give it higher, though, because it's not brutal. Like, even if it was really good, it's not brutal. So it's in between shite and grand. So I'll give it a booze.
Well, we all know my feelings, so I'm not going to be overly biased about it. All I'm going to do is delay it slightly, so Kinger has a little bit extra time to think of what a Kildare accent sounds like.
It's just a Dublin accent, like, it's fine.
Hey, you shut the fuck up. It is not a Dublin accent, okay? The border ends at Leixlip and Lucan, and that's the end of that. If you do a Dublin accent for this, I will come down to fucking Moat, and I will slap your arse from one end of the People's Park to the other. Right through all those TY fucking... Right through...
accent.
Right through all those TY projects. That's what I will do.
So, Kinger, you're saying they might as well just combine the counties and have one big county and maybe call it... Maybe just call it Kildare.
Yeah.
Nah,
Dublin, and then everywhere else.
Dissolve Dublin into Kildare. Mark, just one thing that style of tasting beer by having a sip and then half on your sip, and can we call that the half-life paradox?
Oh,
that's that. You'll never finish it. You just kind of like half your sip each time.
I love the half-life bit. Paradox, maybe not, but the half-life something, definitely, because it's not a paradox because it makes sense. Like it's.
Fair.
The half-life.
I was trying to
it's the half-life theory.
The half-life theory. The half-life theory.
Yeah. That'll do. Yeah.
The half-life
science.
Theory. Yeah, there you go. You could be published in a recognised scientific journal with that kind of logic, Kinger.
Oh, I doubt it somehow. So, unbelievably, that gives Trouble Brewing's Fresh Prince of Kildare a booze from the Crafty Crew podcast.
You kind of went scouse there in the middle of that for a second.
I mean...
No, I did not. No way.
Okay.
No way.
No, fair enough. It wasn't as fun as your Carlow one, though, I have to say.
No, I mean, Carlow is going to be... That's just going to be the apex. Like,
at the end of this, I think we need to rank your top 3 or 5, and Carlow at the moment is winning hands 100%. Down.
100%. Richie Carlow now.
Right, lads. So I have a very quick one, right? And this is inspired by listener of the podcast, Mono, who asked us a question during the week. But I thought I might try and read.
Who's a horrible Newcastle fan, just to say.
Oh, just like the worst.
Yeah.
The Lions Tour kicked off last weekend, right? So I was wondering if you were to pick, could you tell us your favourite beer from each of the home nations? So like Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales. It might be a bit of a push to get all five.
Just a quick one for anyone who's wondering why this is taking a bit of time. Everyone is furiously scrolling through their untaps to see which beer they've got from each brewery.
Okay, Kinger, I'll kick us off. I have 4 here. I'm going to start nice and local. The Republic of Ireland, the best and only republic that should be recognised by the United Nations, but let's get into that another day. I'm going to say Hope Brewery's Pass If You Can. It's my favourite kind of ale, knocking about, from my favourite brewery. Love it. Tried it in Waterford the first time I had it. Realised it was brewed right down the road for me, and will regularly buy it once, twice a week. Whenever I buy craft beer, if Hope is there, I'm buying it. Buying a can of it. Must have had like 30 crates at this stage. I don't know. Number 2, going to bounce up to Northern Ireland to Boundary Brewing, okay? Something I had recently, the Invitation to Comic-Con Pale Ale. Delicious. Absolutely fantastic. Lovely and juicy. Real nice flavour to it. A very enjoyable brew. I wish I'd bought more. I'm going to tiptoe across the pond now to the United Kingdom. So England. We're going to go down to Bad Brewing Company in England, and we're going to go with their off-tempo Milkshake IPA. This thing is possibly the nicest beer I've ever had. It's just unbelievable. It's got this lovely milkshake flavour, a lovely creaminess. At the same time, it's a nice and strong IPA, but it's got the typical IPA notes, the hops through it. It's just absolutely fantastic. If there's one beer if you would say to me, is there one beer you can have and then you're dead? This is the last beer you'll ever have. This thing would be one of the ones in my head. I'd be like, oh my god, should I have this? And I might. It's that good. Bouncing on up to Scotland then, for my 4th, I'm going to pick Jagged Edge by Brewdog. It's a really delicious IPA. Probably my favourite of the IPAs I've had there. I know their Punk is their big one. And they have a couple of like very successful non-alcoholic beers in their Punk AF and their Hazy Jane and stuff. But for me, this is the nicest one I've had. And you know, with what's going on in Brewdog at the moment, the Jagged Edge kind of has a certain symbolism there as well too. So those are my 4. Hope's Pass If You Can, Off Tempo, Milkshake IPA by Bad, Jagged Edge by Brewdog, and Boundaries Invitation to Comic-Con.
Cool, so I'll jump in next for the crack and we'll give it a go. I'll see if I can remember numbers after that DIPA thing. Beer 9.1. Face melt goodness. So I'll go with the UK first, and mine is Vocation Brewery, Hop, Skip and Juice, which I absolutely adore. I think it's a 5.7 pale ale. It's absolutely savage. Funny enough, the only place I've gotten it was in Tesco. Haven't seen it in other places, and it's savage. Class beer. If anyone gets a chance to try it, definitely give it a go. The can is really cool as well. It's multicolored awesomeness. So then for Northern Ireland, I would have, it's Boundary Brewing as well. I'm a big fan of Boundary Brewing. They have a beer. It was called what was it? Give me 1 second, I got the name of it. If you stand for nothing, what would you fall for? Which is a 6% IPA, and surprisingly enough, was the beer I did on our first kind of off-air pilot for the Crafty Crew podcast. It's an epic beer. If anyone gets to try it, proper good stuff. Really big fan of that. From Scotland, it's Brewdog as well. I haven't had many Scottish beers, to be fair, so I will go for Brewdog, and it's going to be Duopolis or Duopolis. That's my favorite. It's kind of an oatmeal IPA. It's solid beer. It's really nice, tasty, quite easy drink. And then for Ireland, this is the one that kills me the most. It's quite hard. But I'm probably going to have to go with my local brewery, go with Dead Center, and it's going to be Marooned. I think that oat IPA is just, it's class. It's the mouthfeel, everything about it, and it's just so consistently good. Yeah, that's going to be my one. Just knowing that I can get it, no more than like you, Mark, knowing you can get it whenever you're out somewhere, knowing it's always going to be a solid beer, not having to be like, oh, is this one going to be good or bad? Yeah, definitely up there for me. So, Dead Center, Marooned, Boundary. Oh my God, if you don't stand for this, what will you fall for? Brewdog Duopolis and Vocation Hop Skip and Juice Pale Ale.
Nally, we've both been in a situation where a beer we've loved just hasn't made it. Or, it's either it's a limited edition that doesn't get pumped into regular production, or it's some sort of, mainstream attempt at a staple that doesn't quite work out. I guess for you it would be like the Apex S'mores one with Wicklow Wolf that was a limited edition and they didn't like kick it into mainstream. I've had a few myself. The Red IPA Hope did for their their winter seasonal 2020. I absolutely fell in love with that beer.
Just a quick one for you, Mark. You're lucky though, because Hope do that winter seasonal Red IPA every year. That's their seasonal IPA, so you're going to get that next year. It's just going to be a different. It's 2021 batch, but that's what they do each year. They do the Red IPA as their winter seasonal. So you have some hope.
Well, I do have some hope. I'm going to get more, but it's very reaffirming or reassuring maybe, or whatever. But it makes you feel very good about yourself when a beer you absolutely love. And for you guys, it's going to be the Dead Center Brewery, kind of their main range. But Marooned for you. For me, the Hope Pass If You Can, that you're not the only one that feels that way, and that people get behind it and buy it. And I know a lot of ads say drink responsibly, but here at the Craft Crew podcast, we don't say drink responsibly. We say drink whatever you want, but only if you like it. So drink whatever you want, whenever you want, only if you like it. Niall K, 2021.
Or if you're on a podcast like ours and have to drink DIPAs because Kinger says so.
For me, Scotland is Innocent Guns, the original. It was probably my first ever time dabbling in the world of craft beer. So it's they call it a Scottish golden beer, and it's brewed in whiskey casks. Like, it's a 6.6% beer, and it's like there's a bang of alcohol off it, which I really, really enjoyed. I think then I would have to go for the north. I'd have to go Boundary, which they're getting a big mention in this section. But they have a tropical IPA called Imbongo, and it's incredible. It's such a nice beer. Ireland is like metal beer solid. Like, there's no getting around that. I'll never get over that beer. But my English beer, and you're going to have to help me out. So I know it's the Wild Beer Company. We had it on the podcast, I think.
Calamification or classification or something?
Yes. Calamassification.
Calamassification, that's it, yeah.
Calamassification.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Hibiscus, I think, is the main kind of flavour in it, and it's so different for a beer. It's really nice. I was going to say Shouting at Strangers, but
no, stop it.
Like, no.
It's terrible.
No. Walshy, all done to you.
Right, I will start Northern Ireland as well, and unfortunately Kinger got there ahead of me, but I will have to go with Boundary and Bongo as well. Ireland, there's...
Hey guys, Walshy, I'm just going to stop you there. Just in case anyone's listening and thinks we have some sort of affiliation with Boundary Brewing, we really don't. It's just that we've had a lot of their beers versus other Northern Irish breweries, and that's the only reason we're landing on that. Right. But Brecon Brewhouse, Beer Hut, Whitewater, I think is it 12 Trees in Tyrone. Like, there's an awful lot of very good Northern Irish breweries, and we 100% even let's push out the boundaries here. Excuse the pun. McIver's in Armagh for ciders as well. There's an awful lot of craft breweries out there in Northern Ireland that are very, very good, and you should really give them a chance if you can. Scots and Cavan as well. Really good cider brewery if anyone's interested in their ciders.
But Mbongo is unbelievable.
It is.
Though,
Yeah. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
I think the big thing here, just Walshy, sorry, really quick. The big thing here is, more importantly, that there are plenty of breweries up the north. But seriously, lads, if you get a chance to get some of that Boundary stuff, it's quality.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's quality. Yeah.
Right, before I was rudely interrupted, I will carry on. I'll go with Ireland, and Ireland's going to be a tricky one because obviously we've drank a lot of stuff from there. But for me, I have to go Yellow Belly Castaway. That's a sour that I need back. Unfortunately, I found out that it's a one-off. But hopefully they come back to it and do something again soon. But that broke my heart. Scotland, Brewdog, Duopolis. Was it nearly an oatmeal milk?
Yeah, it was the same one I said. Yeah, you're right.
Something. You didn't say Duopolis, did you?
Yeah, he did.
Bollocks.
Okay, though, that's fine. Like we
It's
can,
just-
we
it's
are
just
allowed
good
to
beer.
agree on
Yeah,
things from
it's
time
just
to
good
time.
beer. Yeah.
Like, we can agree on that.
Then England, I will go with Siren Lumia.
Oh yeah,
Lumina?
that was a great show.
Oh, that's
the session.
What a shout!
Look,
What a
The
shout!
gluten
the benefits of Untapped, let's put it that way.
yeah, good beer.
Unbelievable beer.
Yeah,
Ah,
that was gorgeous, beautiful beer.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
really.
Quality.
But
It's a beautiful beer.
More importantly, lads, and one final question for this week: what kind of beer do you reckon Eamon Dunphy drinks?
Don't care.
I reckon it's quality.
Don't
I
care.
reckon it's
So as the
probably-
lads continue their bit of rivalry about Eamon Duffy, I'll sign us out. So next week it's Meath and Dublin. We have Lineman's Astral Grains and we have Brews Panda Nero, which I'm not super excited about. But until then, it's a goodbye from Nally, goodbye from Mark, goodbye from Walshy, and from myself, Kinger. See you next week.
And I say he gets
No,
it
he
because
drinks
the
rosé
man's a
cider.
legend.